Welcome to week 2 of my half marathon training. This week was all about adjusting my training to low heart rate running and reworking that 16-week schedule into a 10-week schedule. It was also about adjusting to life. I was reminded that life does not stop for training. We had to say a very sad goodbye to our senior dog who has been with us almost 15 years. He's been part of our life journey. He's been a huge member of our family. He's been a huge member of my running journey. So the week ended on a very sad note. But I was also reminded that running helps you move through grief and move through big emotions. Sometimes when you do not feel like running are the times that we most need to run. Let's jump into week 2. In this video, I talk a lot about heart rate zones 1 through 5. And so I am not an expert on this. As you know, I'm just a recreational runner. I've done a lot of learning in the last week or so about heart rate zone, in particular, training in zone 2, which is low heart rate running or low heart rate training. I'm going to give just a very high level synopsis of what I've learned in the last little bit and what I'm really trying to embed into my running. However, I am not the expert. If you check out my description below, there are links to different videos, and there are 4 particular videos that have just been so helpful to me with improving my understanding of zone 2 heart rate training and the importance of incorporating this into running and training for a half marathon. Let's hit the high points for this video. Or if you want to check out the real experts, check the links below in my description because there's some fantastic information. My explanation is just going to be from my own personal perspective. So let's look at the 5 zones. If the heart rate issue is not of interest to you, you can skip ahead in the video and actually go to the time that's listed up above here. So go to this time stamp on the video and that will skip the whole heart rate stuff. If you're interested in the heart rate stuff, stick around. It gets a little interesting. So it's generally understood that there are 5 training zones or 5 zones for your heart rate if you're training. And so when we talk about zones 1 through 5, that refers to the intensity of your activity or how hard you're working your heart. And so it goes from zone 1 that should be considered very light activity, and what they say is that should be about 50 to 60% of your maximum heart rate or your maximum effort. Zone 2 is 60 to 70% of your maximum effort. Zone 3, 70 to 80. Zone 4, 80 to 90. Zone 5, 90 to 100. You get the drift. It escalates up. The tricky part for me, where I was getting very confused, that when you look at that little chart, well, that looks pretty straightforward. But then the question is, well, how do you know what your maximum effort is? Or how do you know what your maximum heart rate is? A lot of the literature talks about maximum heart rate. If you just Google how to calculate your maximum heart rate, most often you'll get the answer. A general guideline is 220 minus your age, and that should be your maximum heart rate. However, that has always bothered me because 220 minus your age, so I'm 57 years old. So does that mean that every 57-year-old, male or female, regardless of level of fitness, are all the same? It made no sense to me, the 220 minus the age. Mind you, it's the one most often quoted. This is why YouTube is so great. So I went digging and looked at some of the videos from the experts, sports scientists, exercise physiologists, physiotherapists, professional coaches, all kinds of experts in the field, and found a number of different strategies for calculating maximum heart rate. So the formula I landed on that I feel most confident about was in James Dunn. I believe that's his name, James Dunn's YouTube channel. Again, the link is below. And he references and goes over what's called the Karvonen formula. And what I loved about this formula is that this formula allows you to personalize it to your fitness level and based on your own data. And so there are a couple of numbers you need. We need to know what our resting heart rate is, and we need to know what our maximum heart rate is, but he gives a very specific way to find out your maximum heart rate. And so the resting heart rate is easy for me to find. It's been on my watch. 44 is my 1-year average for resting heart rate. Maximum heart rate, how he suggests, is take your last hard 5K that you ran and find out what your peak heart rate was in that race or in that run. And that can be used pretty much as your maximum heart rate. And so I went back, and I have lots of data on my watch. So I went back and I took 3 different 5Ks that were a really good time for me. And so I figured that that would be my maximum effort. My maximum heart rate or peak heart rate was 164 in one of those, and then 168 in another. And in the one that was an actual race, that's why I say we're not competitive, but you just get wrapped up in the excitement. My maximum heart rate in that, or my peak heart rate in that one, was 174. So taking the average of those 3 numbers, my maximum heart rate works out to be 169. If you don't have times for your 5K and you can't look this up, no worries. You can go and do that test yourself if you want to figure it out that way. So mine is 169 is what the maximum heart rate comes out to. And so the heart rate reserve equals the maximum heart rate minus the resting heart rate. So that's 169 minus 44, which is my 1-year average for my resting heart rate. So it brings me to a heart rate reserve of 125. Now, this is the number that I need to keep track of, is 125 as my heart rate reserve, because that's the number we use along with our resting heart rate to figure out the intensities for these 5 different zones. And so the formula for the target heart rate for each of the zones, depending on the percentage of intensity, is simply the target heart rate equals your resting heart rate, which you should know, plus, and then the next part is in brackets, your heart rate reserve times whatever intensity, whatever one you're looking at for the different zones. And so this is what my chart has come out to look like with my zones. And this is what I'm using. It doesn't feel perfect to me, because zone 2, when I'm at 130 beats per minute or around that area, I can still talk pretty easily. I don't feel winded, and so I feel like it should maybe be a little bit higher, but I'm sticking with that because that is what the numbers come out to, and that is based on my own data. I know it seems like a lot of math, but it is fairly straightforward. And they're also online calculators. This is pretty important to figure out. This quote from Andrew Huberman, I think, represents how solid the science is about zone 2 training. Zone 2 cardio is absolutely critical to our health, whether or not you're training for something. Now, let's get to our runs, starting with day 8. My first run of the week was a 12-kilometer run on the Sunday, and this is when I really started to think about low heart rate training. I recorded a little bit on the run, but I can't really show it to you. I'll just show it to you in the background here because it was so windy, you can't hear anything I'm saying. But we'll check in at the end of the run for something that's a little bit easier to hear. I just had to show you this little section of my route. I love my little rural community, but one downside is the springtime, early springtime, is manure spreading time. Ooh, baby, I'm glad this video does not have a scratch and sniff. It was strong. So I'm just back from my 12-kilometer run for start of my week 2, which I think is week 8 in the schedule. And I'm really surprised. So I have been concentrating on keeping my heart rate in the right zone, which has been very hard for me. All my years of running, that's never been a focus area for me. And so every time I saw that my heart rate was above 130, I would slow down. And I was very deliberate about going slow. And the pace is a little scary to me, really. 7 minutes and 13 seconds per kilometer. My usual pace is around the 6-minute mark per kilometer. So when I say I was going slow, I was going very slow. I also wore the nasal strip today. Again, I have chronic congestion, and I just thought, going for a long run, I'm going to wear it, and because I am totally committed to the nose breathing. And I was able to breathe through in and out. And when I say nose breathe, I mean in and out through my nose, not just in and out, in through my nose and out through my mouth. And I was able to do my nose breathing for the full 12 kilometers without effort. Now, again, with the nose strip. I just said to my husband, I said, I didn't feel tired at all, that's just a whole new experience for me, because I have never really put an effort into going slow. Now, I'm a little not worried, but I'm a little curious about what the outcome will be, because going that slow, I mean, I still want to have a good pace when I do this race, and having my long runs at this slow pace, they say, the literature says that it is balanced out with the speed work you do through the week. I find that hard to believe, but hey, that's why I'm doing this. I'm wanting to do it as healthy as possible. As I get older, I need to pay closer attention to my heart rate and some of those cardiovascular issues, and be interesting to see how this all turns out in the end. You know you're running slow when your husband starts to get worried that you've been gone for so long, so he started out on his rollerblades to connect up with me. It was great to finish it off with him. Day 10 brought another rainy day. Listen to this next little video clip. It's hard to listen to. I am such a whiner, and I still have my bite played in, so I have a big lisp as I'm whining.
Oh, I'm just waking up and looking outside, and it is raining. Really raining.
I warned you, it was very painful. Looking back at this, I just want to shake myself and say, "Get out there, you big baby." I did actually get out the door and get out there. If I can just haul it up here. So it was 4.03 kilometers. It took me 28 minutes. Still trying to focus on the heart rate, not the very slow pace. This run, although it was slow, early in the morning and in the rain, got me thinking about a lot of things. I had some big observations, and a bit of a shift in my mindset has started, I think. I'm committed to doing the low heart rate training. This is the first time ever that I'm trying it. I think my commitment comes from I'm 57 years old. When you know that you have more years behind you than you do ahead of you, you start to pay a little more attention to these things. And the fact that I started this training 6 weeks late into the training program, it's a 16-week program, and I started at week 7 in the program. During this run, I thought, okay, this half marathon that I'm training for, first one I've done in 6 years, I don't think I can make it about pace. And I know it's always kind of about pace when you're in a race, but I think I really need to focus on staying committed to the low heart rate training, see how that goes. The other half marathon races that I've been in, my times have ranged from, well, way back in the day. I think the very first one I did was under 2 hours, but I'm a recreational runner. I'm not fast. So they've ranged from, I think, 2 minutes to 2 minutes and 2 minutes, 2 hours to 2 hours and 6 minutes has been my usual range. This one, if I'm doing this low heart rate training, I'm not convinced that it's going to improve my pace. So I think I just have to accept that I'm probably going to be in the 2.5 hour mark, which kind of shocks me, but it is what it is. I am committed to doing it healthy, keeping my heart rate in a healthy zone, and I'm in this for the long run. This is about longevity for me, and if I want to run for life, I got to do this right, and I got to do it healthy, and especially think about, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the microphone. I really have to think about the old ticker and make sure that I'm not putting undue stress on that. Day 11. Just back from my hill training in week 2. And so I ran about 3 kilometers to get to the hill. And these hills that I did, they're about 100 meters. And so I would run up and I would walk down, and my heart rate would go down as I got to the bottom. It wouldn't go really low. But again, I know I'm not doing low heart rate when I'm doing hill training. This is the speed work. And then so another 3 kilometers home. And I had a really not just walk, but walk slow to get it down. And so anyway, we'll see how this goes. I'm feeling a little like I am training for the slowest race ever. Day 12. I know, I am a pretty fancy YouTuber. I'm using a spatula from the kitchen. I just find when I have a high neck on, if I clip the microphone, I rub up against it. So we'll see if this works. Anyway, just back from my steady run, which is the second last run of week 2. And so steady run, I was supposed to start slow in that zone 1 or 2 for the first 5 minutes for a bit of a warm up, and then go at race pace. I am just wrapping up my race pace, going to get into my cool down here. So almost done. And I'm slowing my pace now. I tried to keep my race pace. So I'm huffing a fair bit. I tried to run between 5:50 and 6 minutes per kilometer. I think I managed that. This is the information from my Garmin Connect. So if you look at the blue section in the middle and follow along there, the gray box at the bottom will give you my pace along the entire route. It felt okay. Oh, yeah, see? Okay. This is what I mean. I'm supposed to be going slow. And right there, I was running at a 6 minute per kilometer pace. So I'm just going to slow it down for a minute. And so this is where I am now. Oh, yeah, I'm going slow, but look at my heart rate. I'm going to try some nose breathing here. In addition to walking to get my heart rate down, I find breathing in and out through my nose very slowly and breathing out longer than I'm breathing in actually helps to lower my heart rate quite fast. So it went okay, except I didn't check too much with my heart rate. Oh, he sees me now. Hi, darling. Hi, darling. Hi. Oh, you're a good boy. Good boy. I didn't check too much with my heart rate as I was trying to do my race pace. I did glance fairly often at what the pace was because one thing I realized on this run, and I think this is my biggest lesson today, is and even though I've done different schedules over many different years, I'm realizing there was really no difference between what I was doing for a slow run versus a steady run versus race pace. I think I just had one pace that I did all my training runs at. Other than if I was doing speed work, hill training, then I would sprint during those things. But other than that, all my other runs didn't have a big variation in the pace. So this little experiment is a tough one for me. I'm having a hard time getting my heart rate in zone 1 and 2, and the more I read, the more I am convinced that that's where the benefit and the real training happens is to do 80%. Listen to this, 80% of your training runs should be done, if you're doing for a half marathon, should be done in the zone 1 and 2, that slow pace. It is hard. I can't get my heart rate down there. And I don't know whether I just naturally run high or not run high. I mean, run with a high heart rate. I don't know, but it's taking a lot for me to slow down and get that pace there. So day 14. So today I on my schedule, so the end of my second week of training, so day 14 of training. I've done a few things this week as far as getting ready for the training, getting myself a little bit more organized. I've actually taken the training program that I've used for all these years. I've actually put it in a new document as a 10-week training schedule because every time I looked at that 16-week training schedule that I've always used, I was just reminded that I'm starting 6 weeks late and it just wasn't setting the mood that I was looking for. So I redid my document and I set it up as a 10-week schedule. The other thing I did with it is I added training day numbers. 10 weeks is 70 days. So I numbered sequentially 1 to 70 for every day in the schedule, including my rest days. And I love that. So today instead of thinking about what week I'm in and where I am, I'm day 14 today. And it was a 4 kilometer slow. So heart rate zone 1 to 2. Today was in total 4.23 kilometers. And my my total time was 36 minutes and 50 seconds for 4 kilometers. That's very slow for me. That's really slow for me. So today I actually stopped. When it went above 130, I would stop, walk. I wouldn't completely stop. I would walk very slowly and I wouldn't start again until I got down to around 120, 125. So a couple of times, I mean, I couldn't look at my watch continuously. So a couple of times I nudged up out of zone 2 But when I noticed, I would slow down and bring it back down. Okay, just a warning, this is a bit of a sad story ahead. The other thing is that this was a particularly hard run. Yesterday, we had to say a final farewell to our beloved senior dog who we had for almost 15 years. So it's been it's a bit of a heavy time right now. So wasn't sure if I'd get out the door to do a run or not. It's done, but I can't say that my heart was talk about all this low heart rate. My heart truly wasn't into this run. It was off reminiscing about what a fabulous family member our little brown fur baby has been for more than 14 years. And so, yeah, it's not really feeling like doing the training, but you know what? Gonna keep with the training, whether we feel like it or not. And as I shared in the beginning, running helps you move through grief and move through big emotions. Sometimes when you do not feel like running are the times that we most need to run. Tomorrow's day 15, the start of the third week, and I have to do 14 kilometers at zone 1 and 2. I'm sure it will take me all day to do that. So we don't want to leave this on a sad note. So switching gears a little bit. I usually end every run the same way with a little snack. An after 8 is just my absolute favorite treat. I don't usually do it in the morning, but on this morning I did. I am quite good at eating them in the afternoon as well. Tell me about your favorite thing to do after a run. Leave your comment below. I'm curious about what your routine might be and what others do every time after a run. Or maybe you have a ritual before a run. Would love to hear about that. And hope to see you next week in week 3. That video will drop next Wednesday night at midnight, is when I upload my videos. I'll see you then.